So, hi, I'm Mark Halverson. I'm the Director of Interactive at Atlassian. And I'm here to talk a little bit about A/B testing and how to break things and fail fast without breaking things. First, for those of you who aren't familiar with Atlassian, we're a small, actually not so small anymore, software company that makes software to help people make software. So a lot of people haven't heard of Atlassian, but often have heard of our tools. We make JIRA and Confluence, as well as Bitbucket and HipChat. We have over 35,000 customers worldwide. So there's a good chance if you haven't used our products, someone you know has. Magnolia, as a matter of fact, uses our stuff quite heavily for their documentation and issue tracking. We have been around for about 12 years, and we're getting close to 1,000 employees worldwide. And none of those employees are salespeople. And why that's important for this talk is because all of our sales happen through our website. That means you come to our website, you go through a series of steps, and then you get into the product and you purchase it. So it's very important for us that our website performs that task effectively. So we're constantly looking for ways to make the website convert better. And that's the process of A/B testing. Now, some common things people will do is study button color, and they'll find that red buttons convert better than green buttons, or yellow buttons convert better than orange buttons. So changing button color is one type of test you can do. Changing text is another type of test you could do. You might want to have it say, check out our products in that button, or sign up now, or try it for free. And all those little increments add up to benefits that help the website convert better. This ties back to lean software methodology. So you want to think big about what the big picture is that you're trying to do, which is get your website to convert. Make tiny, small actions. So ship fast, release often. Fail fast. So if something's breaking, you want to learn from that and revert and change. And then learn rapidly. So learn from your mistakes and make changes across your entire website. So in an effort to make this a practice at Atlassian, and something that we're constantly doing over and over again, what we actually did was create a centralized A/B testing group. So we have a series of growth hackers that are focused on testing end to end. So everything from every email we send out to what our website looks like, to what happens after you get into an evaluation. What drip feed emails do you get on day 1, day 7, day 5? What do those emails say? Testing different variants on email subject lines for open rates and things like that. So our centralized growth hacking team has a focus on a lot of different things, but they're really looking at the big picture. Now, when you look at the big picture, what you have to do is go in and make tests of things that might not necessarily be in an area that you manage. So our website is one area like that, where we have our developers, and our developers manage the website, and the growth hacking team comes in and they want to make changes. And the developer might not like that, because if something breaks, who gets called at 2 in the morning? It's the developer, and it's not the growth hacker. So giving up the keys to your web property and saying, make any changes you want, while it's good from a business perspective because you want to be testing things, might not make the developer happy. So the question I pose to you is, what is the best or the easiest way to put a smile on your developer's face? You could just do that, which took me a couple of seconds, but really what you want to do is have a defined process for how you do A/B testing. And so the rest of this talk is going to be about how we have created a process around A/B testing so that we're able to keep both the business happy as well as our developers. So the first thing you need to do when you're deciding to do A/B testing is come up with some good ideas. So where do those ideas come from? But at Atlassian, what we found is that you don't just get ideas from one person. They actually can come from anywhere. So anybody in the company who is possibly just going through and testing out an evaluation, or clicking through the website, can come up with these ideas. But in order for these ideas to be effective, we need to broadcast to the company what exactly we're trying to improve. So from a big picture perspective, what is it that we want our website to do? And that's convert better. So what we actually do is we publish what we call the Blimp Dashboard, which is an overview of the high-level metrics that we want to track and improve. So for us, it's visitors, so the total number of people that's at the top of the funnel. people that visited the try page, so that's, there's a drop-off between total visitors and visitors on the try page. Evaluators, so that's people who've actually clicked on try and gone into the product. And then finally leads, which is people that have tried the product out for a certain amount of time, and we feel a pretty high level of confidence that they're actually going to convert. So what we've done is we've actually opened up our backlog of A/B testing to the entire company. So anybody can come forward and create a JIRA ticket that is set up for an A/B test. And now we'll worry about whether it's a good idea or not later, but the point is to get a lot of ideas, because ideas are going to spark conversations, and conversations turn into tests. So the JIRA ticket is pretty simplistic. You just give it a name, a hypothesis, what you want to change, and what you think it's going to do. And then that ticket goes into the backlog where our data scientists go and figure out how much traffic we would need to prove whether this is going to be statistically significant or not. How is it going to affect our high-level statistics that we're trying to change? How is this actually going to move the needle? So this is the JIRA ticket. Now, what are some types of tests you want to run? And we've broken it down to 3 categories. There's pebbles, rocks, or boulders. This is a way that we scope the work to determine whether we need to have just the person in the growth hacking team do this on their own, or if we have to pull in other groups to make this test happen. So pebbles are simple. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Things like changing button color, changing action text, changing copy. Those things are really simple and handled very effectively by the tools that we're using, and it doesn't really involve a lot of different people. There are rocks. These are things like introducing new pages, where you might have to have a design done first. You might have to pull in and basically negotiate time with your designers. You're also creating a URL potentially that you need to maintain long term. There's just some more things to think about when you're dealing with a rock. And then finally, boulders. And these are kind of bigger, broader changes that involve multiple different people. So if you are, for example, wanting to take a step out of the order form or simplify the order form and put it on a single page, those sorts of things involve a lot of different people and could potentially break back-end systems. So with boulders, you need to involve more people. Some examples of different types of tests that we're running. One focus area is reducing friction. So right now on our website, we're a product-focused company, and we have product tours for everything that we sell. And those product tours go very in-depth. As I said before, we don't have salespeople, so we rely on showing the product in order for people to understand what they're buying. So in the past, we might have this JIRA tour, which is multiple pages long with dozens of screenshots and lots of copy, which are great from an SEO perspective, and it's good for the type of person that wants to learn all about it. But what about the other type of person? What about the person that just wants the high-level bullet points and just wants to get into the product? So we're testing long-form product tours against short-form bullet point product tours that really let the product sell itself. And that's reducing friction. Increasing visibility. Last year, we released a new product, which was JIRA Service Desk. And the implementation of it is actually an add-on for JIRA. So if you, in order to get JIRA Service Desk, you install JIRA, then you add an add-on, and then you have JIRA Service Desk. So the way that looked in our website was actually add-ons are buried under a tab at the bottom here. And in order to know that JIRA Service Desk existed, you have to go to the products page, then know it's an add-on, click on add-ons, go to there and add it. So what we did is test it against just raising that up and making it a first-level citizen, creating a box just like JIRA Confluence for JIRA Service Desk. Now this converted very well because the more you see things and know they exist, the better it's going to convert. We also test drive campaigns. So this is Get Essentials, which is bringing together multiple different products that we sell into a package that you can try all together. So things that we test here are things around headline, body copy, but then also when you click the button, it takes you off to the order form and adds the exact products that you need to get in and test the Get Essentials. And this is like something that's interesting, that's easy to test, but it's a little bit more work. This was an interesting one that we ran on bitbucket.org. We were, as I said, we don't have salespeople, so we typically lean a lot on content marketing to make sure that people understand what the product does. Now, updating things like screenshots and copy around features and things like that takes a little bit of work for product marketing managers because the product, Bitbucket especially, is changing all the time. So one thing that we tried was, well, what if we just get rid of all that? What if we just pull all that copy off and let the product sell itself? So we tested removing everything from the product tour and just having a sign-up screen on the form on the screen that you put your name in, click submit, go in, let the product sell itself. And this actually proved to show a 42% increase in signups. Now, there's some studying that needs to be done whether those signups are more or less valuable than they were before, but it was an interesting test nonetheless. Now, none of these tests are something that I'm saying just go out and run or try, but the idea is to start thinking about the steps that your users have to go through to get into the product and start coming up with ideas of your own for things that you might want to test. All right, so now we've collected great ideas. What do you do with them next? The next thing you need to do is triage them based on potential impact. So you don't want to just run every test that comes in, because some tests are frankly bad tests, and they're not going to prove anything to you. And 99% of the tests you run are not going to have any effect anyway. It's really finding that 1% of tests that actually is going to have an impact. So in order to triage, we have to look again at the big picture and say, what are we trying to improve? Well, what we're trying to improve are the things on the Blimp dashboard, so top-level funnel all the way through to purchase. And so by looking at this and keeping your eye on the big picture, you're actually able to prioritize based upon impact. So we keep everything in a JIRA Agile board that is all the incoming ideas for things we want to test, and then they're prioritized based upon the potential impact. And things that have no impact or low impact go down to the bottom, and we'll probably never get to them. Inside there, we have the same JIRA ticket that we saw earlier in our Collect Great Ideas section. So it started with an idea. Someone filled out a ticket, and they put this ticket into the backlog. It's prioritized. This is where the data scientists go off and start having conversations around the hypothesis. So how much traffic we're going to need to prove whether this is statistically significant or not, et cetera. But the one thing I want to point out in this JIRA ticket is that JIRA gives you a ID or a unique ID for every ticket that's created. And this is key because one of the things we learned over time is that when you're talking about A/B testing, you have to deal with a lot of different tools and a lot of different people. So getting everyone on the same page and making sure that they're talking about the same thing is key. And the key quite literally to bringing that understanding is the JIRA issue key. So we'll see this again in a lot of different places. Another tool that we've used in our triaging for a potential impact is a group we call the Experiment Illuminati. And this is a group of people that care about A/B testing that is cross-functional. So we've got demand generation, we've got people from a customer platform team, interactive is in there, and then data scientists. And we actually meet on Fridays, and we get together, and we talk about what tests are in the hopper, what's running, what's interesting, and we try to poke holes in the tests to figure out whether it's a good test or not. And we've actually had tests come into this that are all ready to go that we've pulled the plug on because we've said, this is a waste of time, let's not test this. So now that we've collected great ideas and triaged, the next step is to build them out and get them ready to go. So the good candidates we build out, and the tool that we use for A/B testing is actually Optimizely. If you haven't used Optimizely, I highly recommend it. It's a really great tool that basically gives you a WYSIWYG editor to go in and edit your pages right on the glass. So by including a simple JavaScript snippet on your page, you can actually go in and change button color, change ad copy or text copy, et cetera, all on your own. But the one thing I wanted to point out is in this tool, just like in the JIRA ticket, we're naming everything consistently with that same ID that we used in the JIRA ticket. So if you're in JIRA and you're having a conversation there and you come over to Optimizely, you know that WAT92 is the same as WAT92 over there. So again, name your things consistently so people know what you're talking about. Next up is preparing for results. So we've got our JIRA ticket, which is where the techie people are having conversations about the hypothesis and all this sort of thing. And we've got Optimizely, where people are actually building the tests out and getting them ready to run. So we have Confluence ready for results. And this is a place where you can report up the chain for people that don't want to get down in the weeds and worry about statistical significance and things like that. This is really a place for management to come in and see what tests are running, what's the hypothesis, what do you expect to prove here. And there are different sections on this page that are interesting, and I'll just walk through how we set it up. So first off, again, use the key from the JIRA ticket so that we know this Confluence page is related to the same Optimizely test and the same JIRA ticket, and you're able to find things consistently across. Next, we have a section in here that focuses on the hypothesis, whether it's running or not, when you're planning to run it, and it links off to the JIRA ticket if you want more information. This is all based on a template that you create. When you create a new one of these, it pre-populates in things that you might forget to do. So we have a list of tasks that you need to go check and make sure you're aware of before you run the test. So there's a few different tasks in here that you just want to go check off and make sure that you know those things are there. But then this section's really key. This is the stakeholder approval section. So what are you touching in this test that might affect someone else? So when we're thinking about a developer who's going to be angry if you break the site and at 2 in the morning he gets a call, his name would be here so that he's aware that this test is running, knows when it's running, and knows how it's going to affect him. We have a few different people in here that we tried to get approvals from for any test, but if there's additional people, we'll add them. And it's just a way for people to know what's going on. Next is the screenshot section. And this is also very important because in tools like Optimizely, when you're testing things, it's actually testing against the live site. And so you want to make sure that you capture what exactly you tested so that you can see it in the future. So we just have screenshots here. In this case, we're testing a hover. So this is what the page looks like today. We have this sticky nav bar that when you scroll down appears, and the button is there so that you can always know where to try it now. And then we tested a few different variations of the wording on it. So if you go back to Optimizely and you visit this page in the future and edit the test, you might not have the same thing there. So capturing it in a screenshot form is important. And then finally, there's a section at the bottom of the page that's set up to accept your results. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. So that is our corresponding test page. So now we've got JIRA, which is managing our backlog and collecting ideas. We've got JIRA Agile, which is prioritizing and getting things ready to run. And then we've got Confluence, which is our reporting section, piece of the puzzle that is reporting up the chain. All right, so we've collected great ideas. We've triaged based on impact. We've built them out, and we've got them ready to run. So the next thing is scheduling to avoid conflicts. So this is, again, in JIRA Agile. The nice thing about having a centralized A/B testing group is that they have their head around the big picture. So they've got their head around everything from beginning to end, and therefore they know if one test is going to affect another test. The last thing you want to do is run one test at a section of the funnel in JIRA that you run a second test deeper in the funnel in JIRA that's going to be affected by the results of the first test, because you're going to skew your results. Now, you can run one test in the JIRA chain and then another test in the Confluence chain, but really it's kind of this matrix of tests, and you need to make sure that you're not running tests that are going to affect other tests. So again, we use this tool for the growth team to look at things and make sure at a high level we're not stepping on each other's toes. All right. Next up is running experiments. Running experiments in Optimizely is very simple. You literally click the Start Experiment button. What this does is it activates the JavaScript snippet, which is running on your website, and that JavaScript snippet actually modifies stuff using DOM manipulation directly in the user's browser. Behind this is actually a snippet of JavaScript that's unique to your experiment. So you take this JavaScript snippet and you drop it into your website, and then any page with a JavaScript snippet on it can be modified through Optimizely. Now, that is essentially giving the keys to your website over to anybody who has an Optimizely account, which is a little bit scary for the developer, because that means someone in marketing can go off and run a test that actually completely breaks stuff. We've had instances where you get a call at 2 in the morning that people can't download the product, and that's because someone in marketing went in and changed something that they didn't know how it worked, and it basically manipulated the DOM to the point where people couldn't actually download the product, and that's bad. So what we've done to raise our comfort level over this is we've actually added in our page properties in Magnolia a checkbox that says include Optimizely. So one thing about this JavaScript snippet is you don't have to have it on your entire website. As I said, putting it on your entire website is like giving the keys to your website to somebody else. What you do need it on is the page you want to modify, and then any pages that you want to use as targets for your goals. So what we did is actually we were targeted about where we put the Optimizely snippet. So we can actually go turn it on and turn it off based upon what tests we know are running. So you simply check the box, activate the content, the JavaScript snippet is there, and now you can run a test on that specific page. When you're done running the test, you actually pull that JavaScript back off, and you're back to having the stability of the website that you're supposed to have. The next thing we do is we go back to the Confluence page and we mark it as running. So this is for the roll-up page, which we'll see in a minute, so that you know what's running, what's in progress, and what's done. It's just a little thing that we change. All right. So we've collected great ideas. We've triaged based upon the potential impact. We've built out the good candidates and talked about them to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them. We've scheduled to make sure that we're not avoiding any conflicts deeper in the chain. We've run our experiments. Next up is analyzing results. So inside Optimizely is an awesome analytics results panel that allows you to go in and slice and dice the information and basically convince yourself that the test you run just had no effect, even though you're not really sure it had an effect. But it's basically, you can slice and dice this information in lots of different ways. Now, this is where the data scientists come into play, because if you take a step back and think about the big picture of what we're trying to improve, and what we're trying to improve is the funnel, which is these 4 different statistics, we actually hand this back over to the data scientists to do the analysis, because it's really easy for a marketing person to go in there and look at the data and convince yourself that you had a huge success when actually it didn't move the needle you wanted to move from a big picture perspective. So the data scientists go in and they slice and dice this information and put it into the reporting page so that anyone that's looking at the reporting across all of these A/B tests is comparing apples to apples and knows that this did or did not have the effects that we wanted. So they fill out this section of the page, and then all of this information is rolled up into a results archive, which is where you can go back and revisit old tests, look at what's running, see what won, what didn't win, and it is a great place to go spend a lot of time. All right, so in wrapping up, our test philosophy is that ideas are everywhere. Don't limit yourself or convince yourself that there are bad ideas out there, because every idea is a good idea until you determine whether or not it's going to have an effect. So collect ideas from anybody, and I highly encourage to have the conversations about things, and I encourage creating a culture of A/B testing in your organizations. We believe that everything that affects conversion should be tested. So whether it's emails, it's the website, it's drip feeds, it's things in the product, any place you touch a customer, there's a chance to convince them that your product is awesome and that they should use it, or a chance to convince them that your product sucks and make them walk away. So anything that any place a customer is something you want to test. We try to not waste any traffic, and that's why we want to have a huge backlog of tests waiting to be run. So if you're finishing up one test, you should be starting another test. And that's just an idea of creating this culture of A/B testing, getting people excited about the fact that changing things can have positive effects. We're aggressive in our testing, no sacred cows. Anything can be considered a test. That Bitbucket test I showed earlier was actually pretty controversial because that affects people's jobs, right? Like we've got a PMM whose job it was to update that content constantly, and now you're totally taking it away. Yeah, it was a little bit of a controversial test, but what you find is you increase conversion to a certain point that now this PMM can go off and find other ways to do things in other places. So be aggressive, and don't think that the way things are today is the way they always have to be. Set a regular cadence for testing. This is all around setting goals around A/B testing. So we try to have tests running all the time, and we have lots of different web properties and various different things to test. So we have tests running all over the place. But if you set a cadence and say, I want to run 3 tests this quarter, that's going to keep you accountable for getting those tests running. And over time, you're going to find that you want to test more and more and more. And then finally, this is one that I hold dear to my heart, having running the design team, is that you don't want to run a test that you wouldn't want to have win. So have guidelines, have design guidelines that you follow, and don't run tests that are obviously not going to win. We're not going to go change Atlassian.com to be all red like Oracle. It might convert better, but it's just something we're not going to do. So think about that when you're running tests, and don't run them just for the sake of running them, because if you're not going to make the change long term, make sure you're happy with what you're testing. So my key takeaways are: ideas are everywhere. Collect as many as you can, and then let other people worry about whether they're good ideas or not, because you can figure that out pretty easily if you have your eye on the big picture. Use some sort of naming convention across the entire thing, because you're going to be touching a lot of different systems and working with a lot of different people. So make sure that you're talking about the same thing across all these different systems. We use the JIRA ticket key on all of the things, and we've learned that over time, if you have naming conventions in one place that are different, people get confused. So be consistent, know what you're talking about. And then third, involve stakeholders early, and make sure you involve your developers, and get approvals. So don't just go in and change things without talking to people. When things break, you don't know where to look to find the answer. And that is the easiest way to keep your developers smiling. All right, thank you.